is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Most Valuable Podcast. I am Mark Williams with my colleague
Victor Castro.
and we're just two dudes who do real estate for a living. And today, we're going to tell you that you need to either adapt or you can continue to complain. And we don't want you to complain anymore.
That's what this whole message is.
Yeah, so let's get into what we mean, adapt or complain. So we're talking to you, the potential first-time home buyer or second-time home buyer that is looking to purchase a home in the Bay Area. Odds are is you probably grew up in a city where you might be priced out, or you just don't want to spend that much on a home. With the current climate in housing, the continuous year-over-year growth in housing prices, the increase in demand, interest rates where they currently sit compared to income and wages, a lot of clients have to relocate when it comes time to purchase that home. We are prime examples of that. Not only as real estate agents that help a lot of people relocate, and we'll get into specifics of, where we've helped people relocate to, but personally, we've both relocated from the cities we grew up in to cities that are further away because our budget dictated that. And this episode is going to be talking about, you can either sit there and complain about not wanting to commute, and that's what holds you back from purchasing a home, or you do purchase a home and you continue to complain about your long commute even though you knew what you were getting into, or you can adapt to your new situation and figure out how to make it work, how to shorten your commute, or things you can do to just make life a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And we're here to tell you how to do that. Yeah? Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Cool, man. So let's get into a little bit about how we've helped people relocate and kind of maybe what the initial pushback was. Let's talk about maybe first where you help people relocate from.
And we continue to see that complain that.
I mean, it's a trend. It's a trend, though. Think about it. Think about where there's land available.
Yeah.
Think about these cities that are growing. If you go down Interstate 5 now from like 580, there's a freaking whole neighborhoods off of Interstate 5, like Tracy Hills. There was nothing there for 30 plus, as long as I've been alive, all of a sudden now there's this huge community that are like $1 million homes.
Yep.
People are doing hyper commutes now. Coming from the Central Valley, coming from Solano County, Napa, Contra Costa. But, maybe Victor, why don't you talk about how you help some people, maybe where a couple situations, maybe what city they were in, where they ended up moving to, maybe what their pushback was, and maybe what the resolution was.
Yeah. Okay. So, I have helped so many, probably 80% to 90%. I'd have to do the math, but 80 to 90% of my clients have relocated from either the South Bay, San Jose, very popular. I know a lot of people in San Jose from doing music, and they've relocated to the East Bay, like Antioch, cities like Antioch, Pittsburgh, Central Valley, Manteca, Tracy, Lathrop, people from San Francisco also to Antioch. You name it. It's usually people moving out here to the East Bay where it's more affordable.
Yeah.
Here in eastern Contra Costa, East County, Contra Costa, and or the Central Valley.
Yeah.
They're just stretching out their dollar, right? Clients I'm helping out right now, they wanted to stay in Pleasant Hill, but they got to move out to Pittsburgh. It's always the case. That's usually the biggest sacrifice that you have to make as a buyer here.
I would say
in the Bay
I
Area.
would say it is the biggest sacrifice you will make as a home buyer, and specifically a first-time home buyer, is you're going to sacrifice the city you want to be in.
Yep.
Because usually where you're renting is the city where you want to be in, but the reason you live there is because you are renting. And the rent is, you're either A, been a tenant for a while, so your rent can gradually go up. It's nothing crazy, right? Or B, you're okay paying some ridiculous amount of rent because, you have a 10-minute commute to work, right? So location is the biggest sacrifice you will make when becoming a first-time homeowner.
It is. It is. Hey, unless you're making a lot of money, you're comfortably able to afford in the city that you're wanting to live in, that will be the biggest sacrifice. Yeah. And what is the biggest pushback is what you're getting for the price. I think that's the biggest hurdle for me, is not only do you have to sacrifice the commute, but after having to sacrifice an hour more to be able to get to work, or 2 hours more a day, right? Whether it's an hour there, an hour back, or more, you have to settle for less on the home that you're looking to buy. And maybe some expectations some people have are like, hey, like, it's more affordable out there, I should be able to get that, that pool in the backyard, or that really nice, remodeled 4-bed, 2-bath. That's, the expectations, I think, are a little bit off.
Yeah, you're not moving to a different state. Still the Bay Area.
It's still the Bay Area.
It's still one of the 9 counties in the Bay Area. You're not going from, maybe you're in Hayward, and if you go from Hayward to like Pittsburgh, it's not too much of a drop off in like a similar home. Here's a good example. Like, let's just do your typical Bay Area home is usually a ranch style home, which is a single story home. It's usually about 1,000 to 1,300 square feet. It has an attached 2-car garage. It was built in the 50s. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The master bedroom, if it's usually a 3-1, but at some point maybe you can option the little small bathroom in the master, right? That has like the pocket door and the stand-up shower, right? That's your typical home in the Bay Area, right? Every city has those neighborhoods, all right? In Hayward, that home, depending on the neighborhood, will range from $800,000 to like $1.2 million, depending on how close it is to Castro Valley.
Freeways.
Yeah, exactly. So you got an $850 to, let's call it $800 to $1.2 million spread on that same home. Now let's go to Pittsburgh. Same home. It's probably built by the same person, right? Depending on the neighborhood in Pittsburgh, you're looking at $550 to $850.
Yeah.
If you're up in the hills, probably like $850.
Yeah.
So there is a big difference in price, right? Because essentially being in the most desirable part of Pittsburgh is going to cost you $850, and being in the most desirable part of Hayward is going to cost you $1.2 million. So that's a $350,000 difference. And when that correlates to a payment, right, it's probably like another $3 or $4 difference a month. Okay? But still expensive, though. $850K is still a lot of money. you know? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Takes 2 incomes to pay that.
Exactly. So that's my point is like, you're going from a city like Hayward because you can't afford it to move to, and you're having to move to Antioch or Pittsburgh for the same home, but you're expecting more home.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, unfortunately, it's not how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, the expectation, that's going to be $1 million+ home. There's $1 million+ homes out that way too.
Look, the first home just simply isn't your dream home. That's just another reality.
You know what? I'm gonna push back on that. I'm gonna push back on that with you, Victor. The dream is to own a home.
People have it twisted, in my opinion. Like,
okay, I get what you're
see-
saying. I get what you're saying. Like, it's not their like the home they want, the homeowner dream. I think of it. Your first home is your dream home because you dreamt
to own
about
one.
to own a home.
Yeah, I get
so
that.
it is a dream home. Now, is it the I won the lottery and money is no issue home? Absolutely not.
That's that. Yes. Now that you put it that way, yeah, that's correct. But just people have the wrong expectation.
Yeah.
They feel like, hey, I should be able, like I should be able to get the home that I am like looking for that physically looks how I want it to look like. It's not the case. It's just not.
And that goes with, I hate to cut you off, but that's what anything. Yeah. Like the home I live in now is not my first home. And you can probably get into how, I leveraged my first home to get more of a dream home, and it was a new construction, but I didn't personally build it. So it's not like exactly how I would want my home. Unless you're the one that is sitting down with the architect, designing the plans, you find a plot of land that is where you want it to be, and you pick out every single piece of wood and nail that constructs that home. 99% of homes will never be your dream home.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's just keeping it real. Keeping it real. So yeah, man. I mean, I feel like, I think once you realize that the reality is quite different from what you would like, then home ownership becomes much more doable, much more feasible. And you have to just realize that in the future, that dream home that you are looking for, that you physically want, is attainable. But there's some steps that you have to go through sometimes before you get it. And one of them is maybe commuting. I have people that I've helped 5 years ago, that have enough equity to get back to the city that they want to move back. Yeah. Now they've made $250,000, $300,000 worth of equity in some occasions. If they wanted to, technically they could do it right now. Maybe it's not the best time to do it because of rates are higher than what they bought at or whatever. Yeah. But it's doable. They could sell their home and they can get back to the city. Take that equity, that money that they've made, with the value of their home going up over a period of time, 4 years, 5 years, and they can put that down payment on the home over there and now be in the city that they want to be in.
See, and I think that's a good point.
And that's the dream.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you just hit on, is they were willing to make that sacrifice of leaving the city they were in, commuting a distance, and in doing so and not having that be the roadblock. And the reason we're talking about that, the commute, because it's the biggest roadblock. Yeah. The close to 200 families, going on 200 families we helped. I mean, 70% of them relocated, and the commute is always the biggest hurdle to overcome. Either both are commuting or one person is commuting, okay? But this particular family saw the value in home ownership, got in, right? It sounds like they got in pre-pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. Or at the start of pandemic, and rode that wave of that crazy appreciation and essentially made their initial, do you remember how much they put down?
Like 34, 35.
So they basically turned 30 to 40 grand into like 300 grand.
Yeah.
In a handful of years, because they were willing to make that sacrifice. If they weren't willing to make that sacrifice, what are the odds that they would have been able to save $300,000 over 4 or 5 years? And I think we talked about it on the past podcast. Most people average savings account is like $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
So the odds are slim to none.
Yeah.
Right? Unless they made some, and even then, someone's probably listening, well, I invest in crypto or something. What's the odds that that's going to hit? Or you have the threshold to put 40 grand into some crypto coin and ride it out for 4 years, because we all know how it goes. And that's what I always tell people when they go, man, I should have bought this 10 years ago. Well, were you willing over the last 10 years to ride it out? The dips, the highs, and the lows. Odds are probably not. Most people don't have that threshold. They're going to sell. They'll see a dip. It goes back up. They sell it really quick, right? So making that sacrifice in this case has now put them in a position to have the option to possibly get back to where they came from. My question to you, Victor, is do they want to go back there? Or are they happy where they're at now? Because now, compared to their neighbors, they're paying a lot less to be in that same neighborhood.
You know, I haven't had that conversation with them, but I'm sure if the ultimate goal really, really was to get back, then we can make it happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, come to find out, a lot of families fall in love with the new city that they move. That's the majority of the time. Isn't that crazy, Mark?
Yeah, it's crazy.
How it works. You adapt, and this is what the podcast is about. You adapt. You stop complaining. Like, actually, commuting isn't that bad. You know, I got used to that 1 hour commute. It actually releases some stress. I don't have to see my wife for an hour. Or I don't have to see, you know.
Well, when I was commuting, I started listening to like audiobooks.
Yeah.
You know? And look, it's not fun to sit in a car for 4 hours a day. It's not, right? But it's just one of those sacrifices that sometimes has to be made to obtain a goal. Now, here's some resolutions. I will challenge anybody, any profession, unless you have some very specific, finite profession where this is the only company in the world that your job pertains to. If you're getting, I'm being kind of sarcastic, that you cannot find a replacement position closer to where you live. And what I'm getting at is, I'll use myself. So when I moved out to Oakley, East Contra Costa County, and I came from San Jose, I was a bank manager. Guess what I did? I found another company I was looking for a bank manager that was closer to home. And guess what? It's still the Bay Area, so I got paid exactly the same amount. That's what people forget is if your job is based there, they base their wages based on like geography, which most companies do. You're still the Bay Area, so your salary usually is the same, right? I have some friends that moved out to Pleasant Hill area from South San Francisco, and one of the husband, he works in like police services. The wife was in medical; she was like a RN, and they moved to Pleasant Hill because more money, more value, right? From where their dollar can stretch, but their biggest concern was commute. Well, guess what? The husband's cool with the commute. Got a nice car, takes BART sometimes. Cool. The wife, she works in Walnut Creek now, being an RN, like doing the same thing. Like it only took about a year for her to figure out, like, I don't want to drive anymore. Let me start applying out here. People act like cities don't need, like they don't, just because the city you live in has like the restaurant you love and the hospital you go to, the new city has a hospital and a restaurant and you're going to fall in love with as well.
I've ran through that same scenario multiple times, Mark. Like some clients I helped out in Stockton relocate from San Jose. He's making actually more money in the same company that's 2 minutes away from his new home.
Yeah.
Down the street.
Yeah.
And she is a nurse.
Yeah.
That can just relocate in Kaiser to a new Kaiser.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's jobs out there. And look, you know, there are instances where a pay cut may happen. Then that's up to you to feel like, what is your time worth, right? Because here's my thing. If you're complaining about the commute, so you get paid a certain amount of dollars per hour. If your salary, you can calculate it, right? Unless you're 100% commission like we are, right? So you're making $100 an hour. So if you have a 3-hour commute, That's $300 a day, right? So calculate it. $300 a day, 5 days a week. It's $1,500 times 4 weeks, right? $6,000 a month, right? So it's costing you time-wise,
quote unquote,
$6,000 a month to do this commute. Is it worth it? Like, is it worth making 10 grand less to get the same position at a spot that maybe cut your commute in half? Is that time that you gain back worth it?
What's your priority?
What is it worth to you, right? And it's not going to be a smooth process. There might be some trial and error. I know some people that like change careers because they didn't want to commute no more. And it was a good opportunity for them, being that they were in a situation, they bought the home, they owned the home, financially they were in a position where they can either re-educate themselves and do something else, or maybe find something they were a little bit more passionate about doing and make similar money, but gain back some of their personal time, right?
Which helps with a lot of stuff. And like I had a client that actually, instead of going full time, went down to part time.
Yeah.
That freed up some time to start a business.
Yeah.
Started selling, I think it was like some sort of cookies or something like that, baked out of her house.
Oh wow, okay.
And now she's making, more money than what she was actually making full time and she has more time to spend at home with her kids.
That's what I'm saying. So
just there's ways that you people can figure it out. It's just you have to expand your vision.
You have to adapt.
You have to adapt.
We're humans. Humans adapt to their situations, right? So another thing, it's like, I'll put it this way. Okay. You do not want to change. Maybe you have seniority at this job and the commute, you have to do it, right? Well, then what will make that commute more enjoyable? Like how do I make this commute more enjoyable? I'm going to give you guys some tips because I commuted a lot for a long time. Even when I was in renting, I would still commute because certain areas were giving me, my job was paying me more to be in a certain location, but it was a far commute. So I used to commute from San Francisco to like Marin County. And although distance-wise is not far, before they redid 19th Street, 19th Avenue, and going through Golden Gate Park, it used to be a nightmare. And then the Golden Gate Bridge is an absolute nightmare to commute across, bro. And my commute was like an hour. It was only like a 35-mile commute, but it was like an hour and a half. So you know what I did? I made arrangements to get to work to start an hour early. Because if I left at this certain time, the commute was less. And then after work, that's when I really got into fitness. I signed up for a gym that was around the corner, and I would go work out for an hour, hour and a half. And then my commute was post-traffic, right? And I already got a workout in, so I was relaxed. I got all the stress of my day out, and I was never in a better shape in my life. And guess what? If I would have just hopped in the traffic and drove home, instead of getting the workout, it was only like a 30-minute difference.
Now that you just mentioned that, my sister, which commutes 2 hours I almost 2 hours in the morning, and then 2 hours for sure in the evening after work, because she works in Santa Clara, lives in Antioch.
For now.
She
works in Santa Clara for now.
Okay.
Yeah. She just made the move.
Okay. She's getting used to it. But you mentioned working out. So what she does is she gets off work, she goes work out.
Yeah.
Lets traffic die down a little bit, then she goes home.
Yeah.
So there's different ways, different avenues you could take to make it work for you.
Now you have and that's the thing, you have no excuse not to work out, right? Like, it's a great way to, people always say, I don't have the time. Well, boom, there's the time.
Yeah.
Right? Or, it's something where you adjust your schedule. I have a client that works in Palo Alto, bro, and bought a house in Concord, but they work like graves. So when everyone's coming home, he's headed that way.
There's no traffic at that hour.
And when everyone's going there, he's coming home. And his profession medical profession. He works like, they work like 3-4 day shifts. So, 3 days on, 4 days off type of thing. And same thing, like he'll work out there. Like you just adapt. And if I was to ask him if he would want to do things over, hell no, he loves his home. Yeah. Like it's like, I love his home, bro. I wanted to buy it. But what I'm getting at is what he got. He knew there was going to be some type of sacrifice, and he was willing to make it. Mm-hmm. Now, we do fall into those situations where people think they're willing to make it, and they make the sacrifice, and then they don't adapt. They just keep complaining about it. And you know what? You have every right to complain. However, complaining is not going to solve anything.
It really doesn't.
What do you want to do? You want to sell the house, right? You want to sell the house. You'll get your money back.
It might. See, that's the thing, Mark. It might not make them their money back, depending on when they bought it.
I mean, if you bought it like this month and selling next month, no, you're gonna lose money. Yeah,
that's why. You just gotta have to write it out until it makes sense to sell. But you have to be very careful before you commit to it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that shouldn't be taken lightly. And that would be something I would advise. If you are looking to purchase a home and your budget puts you somewhere else, do the commute. Do the commute one day. Like a good day, like a Monday. Don't do Friday light. On Monday, right? Go stay in the little hotel up there, right? Get there on the weekend. Come spend the weekend in that city and see what's going on the weekend. See how you like the vibe. And then commute, like both ways, where you drive to work and then you get off work and you drive potentially home. See how it is. It's worth testing it out.
It is.
Than just blindly doing it. And see, hey, can I do this 5 times a week?
Yeah. Another option also, Mark, I know we haven't mentioned this yet, but there is commuter options. There's, I think Enterprise offers a commuter option where you can rent out, or they have a driver that picks up locals in a certain area, going towards the same city, and there's different options. It's not just Enterprise. I think there's so many different options.
There's ride shares.
Shares and stuff like that.
You got BART, of course.
Yeah.
One thing about the Bay Area, we do have good public transportation out here. If that's something you don't want to drive and you just want to, read a book or something like that, it's just one of those things that
you got the ferries.
You just have to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
And, it's how you look at it. There's a reason why you're going to have to commute. There's a reason. It's not just, it's either an affordability thing. It's either what you're looking for, like what your wants are, right? As far as like a home, there's something that it has to be done, because if it didn't, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast and this conversation doesn't apply to you. But I think the biggest thing in the adapting is I have yet to meet anybody that hasn't figured out how to do their profession or do something else that is closer to their new home, making similar, if not more money in the 8 years I've been doing this. I myself drink the Kool-Aid. I myself am someone that is preaching this. When I moved out here, bro, I was commuting to Los Altos. Basically the same commute your sister had. 2 hours one way. And what I did was, I'd wake up early. I would get to work an hour early just because it was quicker to leave at that time. Take a nap in the car. Then I would work out and let it die down, then drive back. And guess what? I ended up eventually changing companies, right, to lighten my commute. And then I figured, hey, at that time, it made me really reassess, like, do I even like doing what I'm doing? And that's when I got into real estate. Now I commute downstairs to my office or 25 minutes to our office right here, And yes, we drive and stuff, but our quote-unquote commute, I have no commute, right? Like our office is our car too, right? So, I figured it out. I'm not just saying this tell you guys relocation is a possibility. Like, I've done it myself.
Yeah, I did it myself as well.
It's just what we got to do.
It's what
It's just,
we all have to make that sacrifice.
yeah.
It's just what it is. And
Sometimes that sacrifice takes you out of state.
yeah,
It happens.
I personally think that's a drastic change.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it myself unless it absolutely made sense.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more work.
But
too.
what I'm saying, those people have to adapt.
Yeah,
Right? They have to go find a job in another. They're not going to be driving interstate, right? You know.
Yeah.
So like it's there. Like, you can adapt.
Yeah.
Stop complaining. Yes, it's an hour. Big deal. Go lease the money you're saving in mortgage payment. Go get a nice go lease a nice car or buy a nice car. I would say lease. Go lease a nice car. There's great lease deals. Go get a comfortable car with massage seats, heated and cooled, a good sound system. Hey, you know, why not? Live life. Do that after you buy the house, though.
Yeah. After.
Not before. After the deal is done and you buy the house.
100%. 100%.
Any last things you want to say, Victor?
Nothing comes without sacrifice.
Hey, that's very well said. And with that, guys, we look forward to winning with you.